Hi everyone, this is Smriti. Welcome to QA automation classes. And in last class, we have seen about the browser parameterization and environment parameterization, and we have specifically parameterized the browser and ran our code or the automation script and on Chrome and on Edge, right? Both the things. So we have seen that one, and we have seen our cross-browser compatibility. Similarly, in today's session, we will try to run our test cases in parallel. So what are the changes we need to make to our existing framework? Let's understand what exactly is the parallel execution, right? So what are the advantages of parallel execution, right? So let's go to the testng.xml first and see. So if you see, there are two test cases are there. So second one I have commented out, so let's uncomment it. Okay, so now there are two classes, right? Okay, cool. So let's go to our test data.xls. So there are four data are there, right? So valid and invalid combination. We'll do one thing, it will take some time to execute, so we'll get rid of the last three invalid combinations. Okay, so let's cut it, keep it in another sheet and keep it. Okay, as of now. So now in here, if you see, only one. Now save it. Okay, so that means we have only one set of the data for the test2, right? So we have only one set of the username and password, that is valid setup username and password. I don't want to run it multiple times, I just want to run it once. So there is first test case and there is second test case, both are the valid test and they will be running in the parallel, right? So first one is the click on the sign in or login page, and second one is the login to the application and log out to the application. So these two test cases I want them to execute in parallel. So save it and close it. Now if you double click and open it one more time, you can see there is only one set of the data will be present, right? So it will be running only once, not four times. Okay, so now let's understand why parallel execution. What is the use of the parallel execution? So if you see, I have only two test cases here. In the real test scenario, you will have 600, 700 or thousands of the UI test cases depending upon your application size, right? How many modules are there depends upon that. So we might end up having n number of UI test cases. So in that case, what you are going to do, if you run it sequentially, it is going to take lot of the time. And suppose there is a release and you want to exercise your automation suite and understand where exactly it is failing, you will run it, it will keep on running for longer duration, one day. So you cannot possibly wait for one day to get the feedback, right? So what happened with our automation run, which test cases are failing? So how to reduce that automation execution time is the main point here. So in order to do that, we have to come up with the parallel execution. So in parallel execution, it is a mechanism in which the test cases are executed parallel of each other, okay, independent or parallel of the each other. So because of this, the execution time will be reduced. Okay, and main important thing is that each test case or the test method, they can be distributed on the different threads, and they will be working independent of each other, right? So we'll have the different browser threads, and there the test cases will be distributed among them and they will get executed. So this is the main advantages, like it will reduce your execution time, right? So there is also one disadvantages. So what exactly is the disadvantage? You cannot have the dependent test cases. Let's say, so let's say the test case 01, we have at the rate two test, right, test method. So let's say the second test method is depending on the first test method. So in that case, the second test method is dependent on first test method. There is a dependency, right? So that dependency, that if we want to run both of them independent of each other parallelly, it will fail, it is not going to execute, right? So similarly for user login, right? So you have to log into the application. Let's say first in the login to the application, second test is adding the product to the test cart, right? So list 2 is dependent on the first user login, right? So in this case, if we try to run it, both the test will not be able to run in parallel because there is a dependency. So it is always advisable to write all your test cases independent of each other, right? So all the test cases should be independent of each other. So we have to start from the scratch until the flow, whatever we are automating, everything will be in the same script. Okay, so each test script should have only one test case, and in that way, if we design our test cases, then each test case will be independent of each other, so they can be run in the parallel. So there will be duplication of the code, right? So if you see that open login page, whatever you are doing in open login page, in user login also, first you are doing that one and then you are doing the user login, right? The same steps has been repeated in the user login, but it is perfectly all right. If we see the bigger picture, the run execution time, how much time we are going to save it there, right? So when you do in that manner, right? So test is 0, right? So That is the main benefit if you have the multiple tests. So always try to make them independent of each other. Now test case 02 user login is independent of the test case 01 open login page, so both are independent, right? So so that is the case, both of them are independent to each other, right? So yeah, so both the test cases are independent of each other, that is right. So whatever we are doing in the tc01, the same steps are getting repeated in the tc02, right? We are doing so, okay. So I have already explained that one, right? So that is the main reason why we are going with the parallel execution. Always make sure all your test cases should be independent of each other, okay. So right. Okay, so now, so in how many ways we can run the test in parallel? So there are different ways we can run. There is methods, there is test, there is classes, and there is instances. So what exactly is the methods, right? So methods means like when you are specifying the parallel equals to methods, right? So that time all the test methods present are going to get executed parallelly, right? So similarly, right? So right, so when you have the multiple test, we have already created one more test, right? That failed test cases that I deleted, right? So those two tests are going to get executed parallelly, right? Because we are saying test methods are parallel, right? That is the method equals parallel. Similarly, we have tests, right? All the test cases present inside the test tag will run in parallel. So if you go to testng.xml, you can see this is one test tag, right? So inside that, inside suit, we can have the multiple tests, right? Test 1, test 2, right? We can have the multiple tests, right? So inside the test we can have the multiple classes also. So when we say parallel equals to test, this one test and another second test and third test are there, those things will get run in the parallel, okay. So that is parallel equals to test. Similarly classes, if you see, all the test cases present inside the classes are going to run in the parallel, okay. So here two test classes are there, they will run in parallel, okay. And similarly we have the instances, that means it will run all the test cases parallelly inside the same instance, okay. So we'll see them, okay. So let's see, so what exactly we need to do in order to run in parallel. So let's update our testng.xml. So here if we see, so let's go with the parallel equals to test. So we'll run the multiple test, okay. So let's remove this test verbose and preserve order, just give simple test name equals to login test. And here let's have we can say parallel equals to tests and thread count equals to 2 things we can do, right? So correct. So let's see, so here, right, so here in the test name equals to login test is a simple, we can get rid of those verbs and all, we already did that. So let's say test name here is login test, and we'll say parallel equals to tests, we are going with the tests. So here it will show, select the tests, and then we have to specify the thread count, like how many browser instances are going to get executed or get instantiated. So thread count equals to 2, since there are two tests are there, so we want both of them to run in parallel, so we'll say thread count as 2, okay. So now if I'm going to run this one, right, so let's go to the Chrome, anywhere you can run, in the Edge or Chrome, anything is fine. So I'm going to the Chrome and clicking on the run, okay. So what happens here, so let's see, if I'm running on the Chrome, so it's starting, let's wait for the execution to be finished. This is building now. Compiling, okay. Surefire, okay, started, okay. So let's see, so browser info passed from the command line argument, it might have printed that on Chrome. And let's see, the browser should initiated get instantiated, yes. So now it will navigate to the URL, right, and maximize the window, click on sign up or login, and then close it. And then now the second test case should get executed now, right. So now let's see, but here if you see, we have mentioned test parallel equals to test and thread count equals to 2, but it is executing sequentially. Why? Because we are mentioning the parallel with the test tag, right? We should not do that, right? The parallel tag should be at the suit level, okay. So let it executed, we can go and see how to make that change also. So if you see automation exercise, okay, it's going to log out now. Okay, still executing. Let's wait for some more time. Logged out and close the browser. Yes, so now it is successful. If you see, let's wait for the report. Okay, so this is successful. If you see, the build is success, right. So now the build is success. So now let's see. So why it ran in the sequentially? Because in the test line number 7, test name equals to login test, parallel equals to test, and thread count equals to true. So we should move this parallel and thread count equals to true. Whatever parallel thread count we are giving, it should be moved as part of the suit, right, not as part of the test. So if you go to line number 3, here you can see the parallel equals to test and thread count equals to 2. So now we are saying parallel equals to test and thread count equals to 2. So we are having we should have the two tests over here. Parallel equals to test, right? So we should have the two test tag. So let's say the test name equals to login, login page test. So we'll make it as fast test, and we'll copy this one, and again we'll make another test tag. Okay, so let's copy paste it over it here. So now we'll do one thing. So in the first login page test, let's have the tc01 open login page. That's how like we navigate to the login page only, right? So let's keep this one and delete the second one, and similarly in the second one we'll get rid of the first one, and we should have the second test, login user login test. Just say user login test. Okay, so yeah, this is the user login test. Okay, so get rid of the extra spaces. Okay, so there are two tests, and each test has been one test class to execute. Okay, because we are going to run them in parallel. Both the tests are going to get executed in parallel, and the thread count equals to 2. So now let's run it and see. Okay, last time when we ran, we saw it got executed sequentially. So now let's run and see how exactly it is going to run, right? So last time the result was successful because it got executed sequentially. Now our intention is it should run at once, like both the two thread count, like two browsers should get instantiated, and then it should run those two tests in the parallel, right? So let's see that. Let's run it. So starting the run, Chrome run. Okay, let's see what is happening here. So compiling. So starting. Okay, running test suite. Yeah, it is opening the browser. So now if you see, two browser instances are there, right? So let's see. So one got opened. Okay, so navigated to URL. Now it has to click on the sign up or login link. Just maximize, yes, then click on sign up or login, and closed, right? The second one, if you see, the browser is launched, but it is not yet navigated to the intended URL, right? So why this happened? What is the issue here? Why it is not navigating? If you go and see, it will fail, right? The execution is finishing. So now the second browser is still instantiated. It didn't navigate to the URL, and it was not even quit, right? So the driver also not quitted. So now if you see, let's close it and let's see the error. What exactly happened? Why exactly it got failed? So if we see here, right? So let's see, read the data properly. Okay, so if you see here, there is the parallel execution, right? So the way the test 1 and test 2 multiple threads are running, they are jumbled up here, right? So you can see testng test 2, then testng test 1, right? Again multiple test 2, multiple test 1, like the order is not there is no sure in which order it is going to get executed. So you can understand this one, but it doesn't make sense to go to the logs each step wise and understand what is happening, right? So but we can see the exception, what exactly happened, right? So yeah, so we can see, but it's better to see the exception from here, why exactly it failed. So if you say this is the tc02 user login dot user login qa automation classes at the gmail.com. So it is the valid username, and valid password also is passed, and time elapsed and failure. Okay, so why it is failure? Because stale element reference exception. So what do you mean by the stale element reference exception? That means the element was earlier present in the DOM, but now we are unable to find. Current driver instance is unable to find the element now, right? So it will show that element also. If we scroll to the end, we can see that element, which element is exactly it is filling, right? So scroll down, it should be that login link, sign up or login link, right? Right. See, if you see here, so normalize space sign up slash login. So it is even find this link. Why it didn't find? Because it was not able to go to the URL itself. It is present in the home page of the URL. When the URL is not loaded, so how can it find this link and click on that one, right? So when the page loads, only that time only this link will be available, right? The second Chrome browser, if you have remembered the execution, it just instantiated. It never navigated to the URL, right? Why? Because the way our code base is defined or designed is wrong. Actually, it is not fit for the parallel execution. It is only fit for the sequential execution. So why? Because if you see, let's go to the first test, right? So base steps, right? Okay, so let's go to base steps and see what is the driver instance. So we're saying public static web driver. So our web driver is public and it is static. So what do you mean by static? So throughout the execution, the context it is going to created only once, right? And every thread is going to access this one. So now when the web driver, like our test case one is running, so it is running finally, it is getting the this web driver instance reference, and it is trying to run the execution, right? And when it completed the execution, we have the after method, and it quit the driver, right? So now your second test case, right, is trying to get hold of the driver, right? But that driver instance we already quit, right? Web driver, the static driver is already quit in the first case. So in that case, it is not able to do the operation what it was supposed to do. The second test case was a complete failure, right? Since it cannot get hold of this driver, it cannot possibly navigate to the URL, right? So that is the problem. Since we have defined our web driver as public static, so where parallel execution is not at all is going to get possible in this scenario, right? This is only good for the sequential execution. So if we want to do the parallel execution, we have to make some changes to our existing framework, and then we can run our test cases in the parallel, right? So that one we're going to see in the next session, right? So that is all for today's session. So I want to thank you for staying and watching this video. Please, I'll request you to subscribe to my channel if you guys are really enjoying this session, and do share it with your friends and the colleagues so that they can also get benefited out of it. And in the comment section, I have given the other playlist related details, so you can go there and watch them also. And if you guys have any questions, just put them in the comment section. I'll get back to you. And that's all to this session, guys. And in the next session, we'll see what are the changes we have to make to our existing framework so that our framework will support the parallel execution. So we saw the problem, now we'll see the solution. Thank you. Yeah.